Harrison, in a sense, it was before you got here, but the first half of the season, the story was just the Yankees constantly coming back late and pushing their way through. Do you get the sense in the clubhouse right now that that's the mentality the guys in there still have from that experience of still being in things?
Yeah, I can't talk to, what the clubhouse was like or what the feeling was like prior to my getting here. I could really not even talk to it while I was rehabbing, just because I wasn't with the team on the road. So I guess my true experience in kind of soaking the clubhouse up started when I started playing, obviously my rehab since. So with that said, it was never about prior, experiences earlier in the season. Everything was simply about, what's our singular focus today, and that's putting our best foot forward and playing our brand of baseball. So yeah, I mean, we have a game today. We know it's in front of us. So, the singular focus again is just to go out there, play our brand of baseball that we know how to do, and see how it shakes out after 9 innings.
Lindsay, to your left.
Harrison, during games, you're often leaning over the railing, watching your teammates pretty closely. What are you looking for in those moments? Are you looking for maybe what your teammates are doing or what the pitchers are doing to attack them? Like, what are you picking up in those moments?
Yeah, I mean, you can learn a lot by just watching. There's a lot of information out there as the game's going on, whether it's how they're attacking, different hitters in our lineup. You're looking maybe for tells in the game. There's just a lot to observe, and I think that my time in between, playing defense and hitting is best served, being on top of the railing, cheering for my teammates, and seeing what information I might be able to gather, because these games really do come down to one pitch at a time. And, if you can gain a piece of information just simply by watching while you're not playing defense or hitting, it might be useful down the line to help your team win. So, a large part of it is, again, to just support my teammates. But, who knows, you might pick up on something that might be the difference in the game.
John in the back right corner.
Thanks, Harrison. You're facing a starter in Javier who has not pitched much in the last few weeks. How could that affect the approach that you take collectively?
Well, everybody over there is there for a reason, especially as they pick their roster. So obviously he's talented, he's good, and he's in this position for a reason. So, I'm going to work very diligently and do my best to game plan. I don't personally have any experience against him, so it'll be a challenge for myself, but it's one that I'm looking forward to. And again, I don't want to speak for anybody in the clubhouse, but I'm sure they're attacking it the same way. And just going out there and getting the opportunity to play baseball today, it's a gorgeous day out. We're back home in New York, regardless of the circumstances. So, there are a lot of things in our favor, a lot of positive things. So everything's a challenge, and I'm just looking forward to attacking it that way.
Joel, seated on your right.
Harrison, you've been on playoff teams in 2 different organizations now. I'm wondering, from your experience, is there such a thing possible as building a lineup to be able to succeed at this time of year?
Yeah, I mean, I think Booney does a really good job of building a lineup and changing it up when he feels like it's necessary. And, we have complete confidence in it as hitters. Again, I can only speak from experience, regardless of where I'm hitting in the lineup, maybe with the exception of the very first at bat of the game on the road where you might want to see some pitches. The approach pretty much remains the same unless the opposition is doing something crazily different that makes you change your approach. The lineup 1 through 9 is about passing the baton to the next hitter, whether it's that, a 10-pitch at bat, whether it's a walk, whether it's getting hit by a pitch, whether it's getting a hit, everything, we all work off of each other. So, again, supreme confidence in what Booney puts out there. And, once it's out there in written, it's our job to go out there and execute. So, I think you can definitely build, a lineup that's going to be, conducive to winning a baseball game, which I'm assuming that's what he did today.
Meredith and Marley.
Harrison, your back's against the wall a little bit coming here. Game 3 down 0-2. Garrett Cole on the mound. What have you learned about him and his mentality, his approach on the mound, and why do you like him in this game?
Well, I like him because his name is Garrett Cole, and he has a lot of history and experience in being in big games. Within this playoff alone, we've had our backs against the wall a couple of times, and the game challenges what you bring to the yard every day, and we've answered it so far. So. Again, we just keep that same mentality. And these games have been really close, these last 2 games. They can really go either way. And just because they haven't necessarily gone in our favor doesn't mean that our attitude or level of confidence is defeated by any means. So you go out there, you play your brand of baseball, you do it confidently with a smile and see how it shakes out. And with that said, Garrett on the mound, he's proven, what he can do for a long time. I'm just getting into experiencing that. So, again, extreme confidence in him. And we're just looking forward to just playing out there today.
Marley in the third row on your left.
Harrison, how's your experience from Game 1 in 2019 that you ever played in the postseason to now? How was it beneficial this particular postseason? And as a follow-up, can you tell me what makes a good leadoff hitter in the postseason?
Sure. So to answer the first question, I think with anything in life, but especially the game, having experience is very important, because sometimes it's very easy to lose your level of focus when things get loud, or maybe you feel like you need to get a hit or the pressure rises. So having experience in the game definitely helps, future experiences. So compared to 2019, I think having been here with a different organization, being around guys who have won World Series, now adding to that list and guys who have won World Series or been a part of World Series teams or been to the World Series, had their backs against the wall in the ALCS. All these things just add to the level of experience that give you confidence moving forward, knowing that there are guys that have been there before, and you are no different. And sorry, what was the second part of that question?
What makes a great leadoff hitter, particularly in the postseason?
I think a guy who sets the tone from the very first pitch, if you're away or if you're home, and you can set the tone in a lot of ways. You can take pitches and show confidence that you're not scared of getting to 2 strikes. You can foul pitches off 0-2, work back to 3-2, have 10 pitch at bats. I think that first leadoff spot is really important because it really does set the tone. If you decide to let it eat 0-0 and hit a home run or get a hit, that also sets the tone. So just carrying the team mentality into your first at bat, I think is very important. And again, we feed off of each other as any lineup does. So 1 to 2, 2 to 3, and so on. If a guy goes out there and makes the pitcher work for the first at bat, and he has a 10 pitch at bat, the next guy's not going to go up there and just swing at the first pitch and roll it over. Everything is just a matter of making the pitcher understand, who we are that day. And I think a lot of it is on the first hitter. So send the tone that way, yeah.
Ron, then Barry.
How do you tell when a pitcher is reading your swings and you have to adjust to what he's doing and maybe abandon your initial game plan and go with what he's giving you?
Yeah, I think catchers honestly are better at doing that. They're a little closer to the hitter. They pick up on little things, maybe where you stand in the box, the way you exhale when you swing, or what you tell yourself when you step out. Catchers are much closer to that. So I think they can use that better in their pitch calling. Honestly, I think a lot of pitchers are just really focused on executing their pitch, and they're focused on the glove. And I think they rely heavily on catchers to make those decisions. So with that said, everything's a game. It's important not to give up too much. There's definitely a game within a game, especially when you step in the box, especially with Maldonado. Again, my first experience with him, he's a great catcher, and he's there for a reason. He's catching these games for a reason. Have tremendous respect for the way he calls games. So you don't want to you don't want to show your hand. But it's also not to say that you don't, go up there and just execute your plan. And if you silence all the noise, regardless of what the catcher might be picking up on, regardless of what the opposition might be picking on, and you just go up there with the intent of swinging at strikes and being a hard out, it does silence a lot of those other things that might be beneficial for the opposition to maybe pick up on.
Barry and then John.
Thanks, Mike. Two kind of disparate questions. Number one, you obviously weren't here for the history of what's gone on recently with the Yankees and the Astros, including even the games that were played in season this year. What's your take on it, and what kind of feel do you get in the locker room of how you can overcome and beat these guys?
Yeah, I don't have any take on it. I wasn't here for it. I didn't feel it. I don't want to carry any extra emotion into it. I'm sure that there maybe are some guys in there that feel a different type of way, and they'd be better suited to answer that question. But for me, again, I have a singular focus today, and that's going out there and playing my game to help my team win. I understand this history, but, when I got to the Cardinals, I didn't carry all of the Cardinal Cubs history with me into every single game, and there was a lot of it. I think it's important to just stay focused and not let certain emotions dictate how you respond, and sometimes you can respond negatively due to those emotions. So as remaining as emotionless as possible and just taking care of the baseball on all sides is my singular focus, and I'm just looking forward to doing it today.
And what do you think of John Sterling's "I'm just wild about Harry" home run calls for you?
I think it's wonderful, and I would love to make him continue to do that as often as possible.
You don't mind being called Harry?
My grandfather was named Harry, so no, not at all.
Okay, great. Thanks.
John, then Sweeney.
Harrison, obviously, in games 1 and 2, it just seemed like early on you guys really had their pitchers kind of working a lot, and then they got into a rhythm both times. Is there something you guys can do to disrupt whatever's happening maybe between innings 2 and 3 or 3 and 4? Is there a different approach or anything like that you guys can bring so that can't happen?
Yeah, I don't think it's that simple. If it were, I think we'd be pouring runs on them. That's just simply not the case. Those guys are really good over there, and they're good for a reason because they know how to mix up our rhythm and they know how to, pitch their strengths, and it's hard to break that up at times. But again, I'll say this, which I've said multiple times, those first 2 games, in my opinion, could have gone either way with one swing, especially on our side. So, after 9 innings, after 4 hours, however long the games take, when you sit back and say this was one pitch, one swing away, we put ourselves in a position to win, that's all you can really do. So that's gotten us a lot of wins in the past. It's helped me think that way moving forward, and I think we just continue with that approach. And listen, every pitch is different. There's no bearing, just because one pitch was executed a certain way, there's no bearing on it moving forward. Each pitch on defense, on offense is a singular event, and I think at times it's much easier and more helpful to think about it that way as opposed to just the entirety of the game, because sometimes the weight of that is too heavy, and you just never know when your pitch is going to come, whether it's your last at bat and you're down 0-2 in the 9th, or it's your first pitch of the game. You just have to be ready at all times. So continuing to do that and continuing to work the opposition is always just the most simple way to attack it.
A couple more, John Morosi.
Harrison, the way you track the baseball in center field is unique. You always have your body behind it when you catch it, and it takes a lot of work, I know, to do that. Who've been the greatest influences throughout your career in developing that technique?
My father, from day one. The fields in New York aren't exactly the nicest and well kept, so admittedly ground balls were not my favorite, and I learned very quickly that I was not an infielder. Which was fine because, there's plenty of space in the outfield for me to run around in. And, I got an outfield glove very early in my, little league and eventual high school career. So just constantly working and understanding why my dad was teaching me that way. YouTube also helped, guys get behind the baseball. So, yeah, it's just kind of ingrained to work behind the baseball and do all of the work as early as you can to make the latter part of the play much more easy. What I mean by that is just working early to get behind the baseball, get to a spot, and then come forward and come through it. So I've noticed that my throw is obviously a lot stronger when I do that, and a lot of times the third base coach is the base runner's eyes. So when he sees that ball fired into the cutoff man, he normally shuts him down, which prevents runs, which is my only focus on defense. So that's kind of why I do it.
Just one or two last ones. Sweeney in the back right.
Harrison. When you've gotten to play with Stanton, it hasn't been a lot, and you haven't played with him in this left center combination yet at this ballpark. What does he need to know about you? What do you need to know about him? And what kind of things do you do to prepare before the game?
Yeah, just a simple conversation. How do you feel out there? What do you work in better? Do you go back better? And he's super athletic, that we've all seen. So he does a really good job out there. He made a couple great catches. In Houston when he played out there, he broke the scoreboard. So we know how big and strong he is. So he knows what he's doing out there. I'm not worried or concerned at all. I just, as working with anybody, the same conversation I had with Judge when I got here. It's just, you just want to understand the guy to your left and to your right. And, I'm excited he's out there. He's more than prepared for the position. So I'm just excited to go to work with him.